I've started a new channel called Lanila Tales. Please subscribe and watch my best stories there. Link is in the description. They say the desert keeps its secrets buried, but tonight I watched one claw its way out of the sand, screaming, and I swear on whatever mercy is left in this galaxy that I will never forget the sound. The sky over Cardoon was thick with storms of red dust that cut through the air like broken glass. Lightning flickered purple across the dunes, revealing shadows that did not belong to nature. The old world signal pulsed again, a deep trembling hum that made the sand ripple as if it were alive. The wind howled like the ghosts of those who once ruled these lands. Humans. My people. The ones the alien warlords nearly erased. Now something else had awakened, and judging by how fast the warlords called for a war council, it terrified even them. Inside the fortress city of Threxus Prime, hidden beneath jagged scrap metal towers and burning furnaces, Supreme Warlord Skarn stood before the gathered alien clans. He was tall, plated in obsidian armor, and his scaled face was carved with scars earned from hundreds of battles. His eyes burned with a kind of cruelty that came naturally to him. The truce with humans is broken, Skarn growled as he slammed his clawed fist against the war table. A shimmering map of Cardoon lit up between them, showing a flickering red signal in the central wastelands. The Ancient Ones have returned, and they dare to rise from the sands once more. They bring war. Then we give them extinction. The other warlords roared in agreement, slamming weapons on the floor until the council chambers shook like a war drum. Outside, the factories kept producing more war machines. Inside, Skarn leaned forward over the map. Find the source of the signal. There is a weapon buried on this cursed world that once belonged to the humans. They called it Echo. Whoever holds it rules this planet. And it will be mine. While Skarn planned genocide, I rode a rusted desert skimmer through a maze of night dunes far from the fortress. My name is Rex Veeler, and if fate had been kinder, I would have died a peaceful farmer or a lazy hunter or anything except the runaway heir of Clan Veeler, a clan wiped out nearly to extinction. But fate did what fate always does. It kicked me in the teeth. The storm clawed at my face gear as I rode, searching for the signal that had drawn me home after years of exile. Something old has awakened. Something human. And after the massacres, after the broken truces, after everything the aliens took from us, I wanted answers. Maybe I wanted revenge too. I am only human after all. A distant explosion ripped across the dunes, followed by weapon fire. I leaned over the skimmer and accelerated. Smoke rose in the distance. Raiders maybe. Or warlord patrols. Either way, someone was in trouble. And even though running toward trouble was how most idiots died, trouble and I had history. I loaded my rifle. As I reached the high dune over the blast site, I saw them below. 3 alien raiders in bone armor had pinned down 2 humans behind a wrecked transport. One of the humans was a teenage boy, small and wiry, swinging a metal wrench like it was a legendary sword. The other was a woman who moved with precision, returning fire with a scoped carbine. I knew her. Even at this distance I knew her movements. Zara Thorne. My childhood friend. The girl who once said she would bury me alive if I ever abandoned her. Then I abandoned her. Now fate had dragged us back together by the throat. I shot the first raider through the skull before he could toss a grenade. The second spun toward me, raising a plasma spear. I fired again. The spear slipped from his grip as he collapsed. The third tried to flee on a war bike. I tossed a magnetic mine. It latched onto the bike and detonated, sending molten shrapnel into the night. Zara stood slowly from behind the wreckage, rifle still raised, eyes narrowed. I lifted my visor. Her expression did not change. Her aim did not lower. Well, this is awkward, I said, because sometimes I use humor to cope with danger, heartbreak, or certain death. Apparently today counted as all 3. Rex Veeler, she said flatly. I thought you were dead. She did not sound happy about me being alive. To be fair, I had vanished without a word after the Warlord purge. Long story, I said. She replied with a bullet that zipped past my ear on purpose. Short story is better, she said. Why are you here? The signal, I said. I came back when I heard it. She froze. You heard it too. She looked at the teenage boy who shrugged nervously. I had not met him yet, but he waved with a wrench like that was normal. Hi, I am Tilo, he said way too cheerfully for someone who had nearly been vaporized. Do you want to see the bomb I built out of a toaster? I said no, but he already pulled something metal and humming out of his bag. Zara slapped it out of his hand before it could explode. We moved fast after that. Enemy signals were still nearby. We dragged supplies from the wreck and repaired a small crawler to get moving. While we worked, Zara demanded answers. Why did you come back, Rex? Where have you been hiding? Why now? I avoided them all until she threw a wrench at my head. Because I am tired of running, I finally said. Because whatever Echo is, Skarn wants it, and that means it is bad news for anyone who is not a scaly tyrant. And because I still care what happens to our people. Zara held my gaze a moment. The storm lights flashed across her eyes. She nodded once. Then you should know this, she said. Echo is not just bad news. It might be the end of everything. She opened a crate and pulled out a cracked data drive etched with human clan symbols. I recognized the mark. Clan Velar. My clan. Where did you get that? I asked. We found it in the ruins of Glass Spire, she said. It contains coordinates to the source of the signal. But that is not all. She powered up the drive and projected the log. A bearded human appeared wearing clan armor like mine. My heart froze. My father. I had not seen his face in 10 years. If you are hearing this, he said, then Echo has awakened. It must not fall into Warlord hands. It is not what you think. And it is more dangerous than anyone knows. Whatever it takes, do not let them find it. Then the recording cut to static. For the first time in a long time, I felt something that was not anger or bitterness. I felt fear. Zara closed the device. Skarn is already hunting Echo, she said. We are behind. We need to move fast, and we need someone who knows the old clan routes. Someone like me. The desert wind roared around us. Tilo's bomb hummed in his bag. The signal pulsed again across the dunes. War was coming whether we wanted it or not. I gripped the rifle and looked at Zara. Then we find Echo, I said. But if Skarn wants a war, he is about to remember why humans survived this long. The sands of Khar-Dûn trembled as if the world itself heard my words. Somewhere out there the future waited, buried beneath the desert. And I was going to dig it up even if it killed me. The crawler engine groaned as it climbed another dune ridge, metal plates rattling like loose bones. Dawn bled over the horizon in weary shades of rust and gold, throwing long shadows across the desert. The storm had passed, leaving behind a silent, scorched wasteland. Ahead of us lay the dust plains, heartland of the surviving human clans. Zara drove while I scanned the horizon with my rifle ready. Tilo sat in the back singing to a sack of explosives as if they were children. I could already feel a headache coming. Zara finally broke the silence. The clans will not like this. You show up out of nowhere and expect them to follow you. They do not follow me, I said. They follow survival. That is what I thought too, she said. But out here survival changes by the day and trust is more fragile than water. Do not remind me. The last time I saw the clans I was dragged before them in chains. They called me a deserter. Some still do. You did not desert, she said quietly. You were 19. You survived after the massacre. No one has the right to call you a coward. Maybe not. But they will anyway. The boy leaned forward between us. Do not worry, I have a plan. I groaned. Why does that sentence scare me every time you say it? Tilo grinned. Because sometimes my plans explode a little. The fact that you said sometimes and not never is why I want you to stay in the crawler when we get there. I am not staying in the crawler, he said. Zara answered before I could. Yes, you are. He sank into his seat, grumbling. By midday we crested a dune and finally saw it. The dust nomad camp. Hundreds of tents stitched from ship's sails and beast leather sprawled across the plain like colorful scars. Smoke curled from trenches where they forged weapons. People moved between sun shields and watchtowers. Clan banners fluttered in the wind, each marked by years of war and defiance. We had reached what remained of humanity. We drove slowly into camp, our crawler dragging attention like blood in shark water. Warriors along the path turned and stared, hands resting on weapons. Some whispered my name. Others scowled. A few spat. "Welcome home," Zara muttered. "Feels warm and friendly as I remember," I said. She gave a humorless smile. "That is why I left." The camp center was guarded by clan champions wearing armor made from scrap steel and bone. At their head stood a mountain of a man with hair like fire and arms the size of tree trunks. He wore a heavy warhammer strapped across his back and carried an expression carved from iron. Commander Rax, war chief of Clan Hydros. My oldest rival. And the reason my nose has been broken 3 times. Rax stepped forward slowly, his gaze fixed on me. I did not flinch. For what felt like an hour nobody spoke. Finally he rumbled. "Rex Veeler. The last time I saw you I promised to break every one of your bones if you ever returned. Good to see you too, Rax." He moved faster than I expected, lifting me by the chest with one hand and slamming me into the side of the crawler. Dust flew. Hands reached for weapons. Zara did not. She watched. Waiting. Rax growled in my face. "You left us to die. We lost clans. We lost children. You ran like a coward. I swore if I saw you again I would bury you alive." I could not breathe, but I managed to say, "Not today, I hope. Because we have a war coming whether you like it or not." Skarn broke the truce. "He has already started hunting for Echo." Rax froze. Warriors murmured behind him. He dropped me and stepped back. "So the rumors are true," he said. Zara stepped forward. "We brought proof." She handed him my father's cracked data drive. When he saw the clan sigil he looked shaken. He turned and gestured sharply. "Take them to the council." The council was a ring of heavy metal chairs around a low fire pit inside the war tent. Clan leaders sat silent as Rax told them what we knew. Zara spoke clearly and calmly, describing Skarn's war council and the raider patrols. When she mentioned Echo, every leader shifted uneasily. Old fear haunted their eyes. They all knew stories of Echo. They thought it was a myth. Finally the oldest among them rose. Elder Marin walked with a carved staff and eyes as sharp as knives. She studied me. "I know your face. You are your father's son. We thought none of the Veeler survived." "I survived," I said. She nodded. "But survival is not living. What have you been doing all these years?" "Fighting. Hiding. Waiting. Running," Zara added helpfully. I glared at her. Marin stared at me a long moment, then turned to the council. "If Echo has awakened, the Warlords will not stop until they control it. Once they do, they will erase us. We must unite." Instant chaos. Voices clashed. Arguments flared. Some wanted to attack the Warlords before they gathered power. Others wanted to hide. One clan leader slammed his fist on the table and accused another of stealing water rations. Someone suggested leaving the planet entirely. Another laughed and said they would rather lick a sand lizard. "Humans. We do not agree well." "Enough," Rax roared, and the tent fell silent. He pointed at me. "What do you want, Rex? Why have you really returned?" I hesitated. This was the moment everything could crumble. So I told the truth. "I came back because I will not let Skarn finish what he started 10 years ago. He destroyed my clan. He murdered my family. I will not let him do it again. But we cannot win alone. The only way to stop Skarn is to find Echo before he does." Old rage burned in my words. The council watched in silence. Then laughter burst from outside the tent. Heavy booming laughter that made the war banners tremble. The guards at the door stumbled back as something huge ducked under the entrance flap. Something not human. He was massive and gray-skinned with tusks jutting from his lower jaw and a chest like a boulder. Alien. Warlord soldier. Enemy. Instantly every warrior in the tent drew their weapons. The giant raised his hands awkwardly. "Hello humans, I come in peace. Please do not stab me." His voice was deep and oddly cheerful. Zara groaned. Oh no. You followed us. He pointed at himself proudly. I am Crag, former soldier of Skarn Legion. I surrender. Please give me food and maybe a blanket. Everyone stared in stunned silence. Elder Marin blinked slowly. Why would a warlord soldier defect to humans? Crag grunted. Skarn is crazy. Also, he stepped on my pet rock. Very rude. I now hate Skarn. Also, I know secret things about Echo. That got everyone's attention. Weapons slowly lowered, but not by much. Rax stepped forward, sword still drawn. Why should we trust you, alien? Crag shrugged. You should not. But you can. Because I am too big to hide and too stupid to lie well. Zara muttered that last part is true. Crag gave her a friendly wave. Hello, Zara friend. She did not wave back. I stepped between them. He helped us escape a raider ambush, I said. He could have killed us, but he did not. Rax eyed him. Why help humans at all? Crag wiped dust off his shoulder. Skarn found something under Fortress 1. Something ancient. He called it the key to Echo. He wants Echo to reshape the world. To erase all life that is not loyal to him. Fire spread through the room. Echo seemed less like a myth and more like a threat waiting to wake. The clans began to argue again, but this time the fear was real. Zara spoke firmly, cutting through the chaos. We have the map to the signal. We have a lead. The desert wind howled like a living thing as our war convoy crossed the spine wastes. We traveled light and fast, evading warlord patrols and sand predators that hunted under the dunes. Sunset dragged long shadows over the cracked earth while heat shimmered off the armored crawlers trailing behind us. We were heading for a place no sane human would approach, a ruin older than any clan memory. The Temple of Glass. Zara sat beside me on the lead skimmer, watching the shifting dunes through the dusty windshield. Her jaw was set in a mixture of determination and something that might have been fear. She would never admit it, though. She would probably wrestle fear into the ground before letting it show. Tilo was in the back seat rewiring a drone like it was a puzzle. Crag jogged along beside us, carrying a massive hammer over his shoulder. He did not seem tired. Then again, he weighed more than a skimmer and had muscles layered over muscles. Every so often he smiled like this was a pleasant hike. I was starting to question if warlord biology even understood pain. We passed into a graveyard of rusted machines and broken war relics. Towering wreckage from ancient battles jutted out of the sand like steel bones. Bits of armor half buried in dust glinted under the dying sun. The air tasted of old smoke and secrets. Zara pointed at something ahead. There. I followed her gaze to a dented metal arch rising crookedly from the dunes. Beyond it lay a field of glass-like stone shimmering in strange colors. Structures of smooth crystalline towers lay shattered as if crushed by a titan's hand. It was beautiful in a haunting way. That is it. The Temple of Glass. She checked the map from my father's data drive. The coordinates match. We halted the convoy at the outskirts of the ruin. Rax stomped up beside our skimmer, gripping his warhammer. He looked at the ruins like they were a riddle he wanted to smash. You are sure the signal comes from inside? Zara nodded. It is coming from beneath the central chamber. Rax turned to the assembled warriors. Nobody touches anything unless we say so. These ruins are older than the clans. Who knows what traps or tech are still active? From the back someone called, why do we not just blow it up? Tilo, who had been lovingly packing explosives, started to raise his hand. Zara glared at him. He lowered it. We moved forward cautiously, picking our way through shattered pillars and cracked crystal pathways. The deeper we went, the colder the air felt, as if the ruins swallowed heat. Crag bent down to tap a wall. Not human design. Too smooth. Too precise. Maybe alien tech. Or something else. Something worse, I said. He looked confused. Worse than aliens? Yes. My luck. Inside the central structure we found a wide circular hall lit by shafts of amber light from holes in the walls. The walls were marked with carvings, patterns, and symbols. Some looked human. Others did not. At the center stood a vast stone disk inlaid with strange metal veins forming a circular pattern. The signal pulsed faintly from beneath it, felt rather than heard like a heartbeat under the floor. Tilo kneeled beside the disk, touching the metal. It is a seal. And it is locked by an energy frequency. He pulled out a portable scanner. I can break it. Rax frowned. How long will it take? Tilo grinned. Depends how big an explosion you want. Zara and I shouted at him at the same time. No explosions. While the kid worked, Zara walked the perimeter studying the carvings. She brushed dust from one panel. These symbols look familiar. I walked over. They looked like clan markings but distorted. It is a mixture, I said. Human symbols combined with something else, like it was rewritten over time. Which makes no sense. Who rewrites history into another language? Someone who wants to hide the truth, she said. A low hum started in the floor. The circular seal pulsed brighter. Tilo yelped and jumped back. I did not touch anything. Mostly. The disc split into sections, folding open like mechanical pedals. Beyond it was a spiral staircase descending into darkness. A cold current of air drifted up from below. Rax motioned for 2 scouts to go first. They descended slowly with lanterns drawn. Their lights flickered in the dark before vanishing. One of them yelled up. It is clear. For now. Which is probably the most ominous way you can end a sentence, Zara said. We descended. The stairs wound down countless levels until we reached a massive chamber bathed in eerie blue light. Strange machines lined the walls, humming softly. At the far end stood a towering crystalline structure full of shifting light, like a storm trapped inside glass. Floating fragments of machinery and glowing shards circled around it like planets around a star. Tilo whispered, that is impossible. Crag scratched his head. Pretty though. We stepped closer. The pulse of the signal came from here. Echo was near. Or maybe this was Echo. Zara approached a console embedded in the wall. It flickered to life, sensing her presence. Symbols cascaded across the surface. Can you read it? I asked. She shook her head. Part of it, but not all. It keeps referencing something called the primary conduit. Something designed to awaken. As she worked, Rax stepped forward cautiously, scanning the area. No guards. No traps. Too easy. I hated that he was right. Nothing about this place made sense. If this was a human ruin, why build it in secret? Why bury it? And why did it feel alive? Suddenly the machines in the chamber activated. Energy surged through the structure. The floating shards spun faster, creating a vortex of light. Alarms pulsed. Rax drew his hammer. What did you do? Zara shouted back. Nothing. Something is triggering it from below. I ran to the central dais where a control slab floated over a platform. A panel slid open, revealing a pod submerged in glowing blue energy. Inside was a figure. Human. Or something close to it. They were suspended weightlessly, eyes closed, silver circuitry etched into their skin like veins of light. Tilo whispered, it is a person. They are alive. The energy around the pod flickered violently. Systems are cycling, Zara said. The main conduit is opening. Echo is waking up. A shockwave blasted through the chamber, sending us stumbling backward. Lights shattered. Machinery cracked. The energy field collapsed, and the pod opened, releasing mist. The body inside fell forward, barely caught by Crag, who looked alarmed. He weighs nothing, he said, confused. The figure coughed weakly, then looked up. His eyes glowed with dim blue light. Who are you? Zara asked cautiously. The boy looked no older than 20. His voice came out strained, like someone learning to speak. I do not remember. Rax stepped forward, raising his hammer. Is he Echo? Tilo shook his head. Echo is not a weapon, it is a system. A control network. He gestured to the pod. He could be a component. Or a key. Or worse. He could be the trigger. The ground trembled suddenly. Dust rained from the ceiling. Movement erupted from the shadows. Metal doors split open and Warlord soldiers stormed into the chamber, weapons blazing. Skarn had beaten us here. Cover, Rax shouted. We dove behind shattered consoles as plasma bolts scorched the walls. Crag set the boy behind a generator and roared, slamming into the enemy lines like a wrecking ball. Zara fired with cold precision, dropping enemy after enemy. Tilo deployed drones that zipped around, detonating stun charges. ISH. We did not sleep after leaving the Temple of Glass. Night had fallen by the time we reached the canyon pass and moved our convoy into the shelter of the cliffs. Fires were forbidden because Warlord patrols were everywhere now. The moment Echo woke up, the signal pulsed across the planet like a flare in deep space. Skarn would know exactly what it meant. He would know someone found Echo. And he would come for us. So we camped in silence beneath dead stars and jagged stone, and hoped the shadows would hide us long enough to breathe. Echo sat apart from the others on a flat rock, staring at his trembling hands for hours as if they belonged to someone else. He did not speak and did not sleep. When we asked questions, he flinched like words were weapons. He looked human, but there was something about his presence that felt wrong. Not evil. Not dangerous in a malicious way. Just unnatural. Like he was not supposed to exist. Zara stayed near him, not close enough to threaten him, but close enough to intercept if he lost control again. Rax was suspicious. Crag was fascinated. Tilo kept sneaking in attempts to scan him with a homemade device until Zara smacked him in the head. We gathered near the canyon wall to plan our next move. Rax crouched over a rough map drawn in the dirt using a dagger. We cannot take him back to the clan camp. If Skarn tracks us, he will lead the Warlords straight to our people. Zara glanced toward Echo, who still stared at his own hands. He did not look threatening. He looked lost. He needs time, she said. And answers. He does not even know who or what he is. Rax grunted. He knows enough to break reality in half. That thing he did in the ruins was not natural. No human can do that. Crag raised one massive hand. Technically, he is not human. Or at least not only human. He smells wrong. Rax stared at him. He smells wrong. Crag shrugged. Warlord sense? You would not understand. Everything smells like boiled meat to you. Rax muttered something about smashing him. Zara looked at me. You have not said anything. I kept my eyes on the desert. I was thinking about my father, about the recording he left behind. I was thinking about why he warned us never to let Echo awaken. And I was thinking that maybe we made a terrible mistake. Finally I said, if we leave him out here, the Warlords will find him. If we take him back, we risk the clans. Either way, we are one step behind Skarn. Rax nodded. Then we take him nowhere. We stay on the move. Hit Warlord scouts. Slow Skarn down. Buy time. I shook my head. We cannot fight a defensive war. Skarn will bring the full legion. We have no fortress. No artillery. No air support. We need an edge. We need to know what Echo really is. Zara said there is one place that might still have answers. The Iron Archives. My heart sank. That place again. Only ghosts go there. She met my gaze. Then we will join them. The Iron Archives were carved into the side of Mount Helios long before the clans existed. Some said they were built by the ancestors. Others claimed aliens built them as a prison. All anyone knew was that anyone who entered never came out. But legend also said that every secret of Khar Dûn was locked inside, including the truth about Echo. Rax did not like the idea, but he agreed we had no choice. The moment he did, I knew everything was about to go wrong. Because that is how fate works. It waits for you to make a plan and then spits in your face. We tore down the camp and moved before dawn. The convoy broke into 3 units, so we would not be easy to track. Tilo rode in my skimmer to monitor Echo's vitals, not that he understood them. Crag marched behind us, dragging a broken warbot he found because he said it had good bones. I did not ask. Zara rode at the front, scanning for ambushes. Rax and his warriors watched our flanks. Everyone was alert. Even the wind moved like it was full of threats. By midday we reached the salt flats, a dead land where lightning storms crawled over cracked earth. The sky above us flickered white and blue. Echo spoke for the first time since the ruins. It feels familiar, he said quietly. Like I have been here. Zara looked at him. You remember something? He shook his head. Not a memory. Something else. A feeling. He looked at the horizon like he could see something in the distance that we could not. It is coming. I asked what is coming. He did not answer. The convoy stopped when we saw smoke trails in the east. Zara lifted her binoculars. Warlord patrols. At least 20 raiders. Coming fast. She turned to me. They were waiting for us. Someone gave away our route. Rax stormed over. Someone betrayed us. We formed a circle. Panic began to rise among the warriors. Crag frowned deeply. It was not me. I am too loyal. And too handsome to betray. Also too obvious. Betrayal is sneaky. I am not sneaky. We know, I said. I scanned the faces around me. Nobody here would send our position unless they had reason. Why would anyone do that? Rax looked grim. Maybe they want Echo for themselves. A shout rose from behind us. A soldier dragged someone from the rear crawler. It was a young man bound and gagged. His cloak was torn, and tucked in his belt was a transmitter. Rax ripped it out and inspected it. Warlord Tech. Zara frowned. I know him. He was with Clan Solara. A runner. Why would he betray the clans? The soldier pulled the gag off. The young man spat defiantly. Because there is no future with you fools. The clans are dying. We have no water. No land. No hope. Skarn offered us a place in the new world. I chose survival. Crag growled. Bad choice. Before Rax could crush his skull, a blast streaked overhead. The raiders were in range. Their hovercrafts swarmed across the flats like metal vultures. Rax roared orders. Shields up. Battle line. Tilo grabbed his bag of explosives. I climbed the nearest dune shouting at Echo to stay down. Crag ran forward laughing with his hammer raised like this was a festival. The battle hit us like a storm of fire. Plasma bolts carved through the sand. Rockets exploded among the crawlers. Warriors screamed and returned fire. Zara fired in short, controlled bursts beside me. Tilo's drones zipped overhead, dropping charges on pursuing hovercrafts. One exploded in a cloud of fire and metal. Crag leaped onto another, smashing it in half with his hammer. But there were too many. For every raider we dropped, 2 more appeared. Rax fought like a force of nature. He slammed into the enemy lines, swinging his hammer in great arcs. But as I fought my way toward him, I saw something worse approaching. A black war carrier bearing the crest of the Supreme Warlord. Skarn had sent one of his generals. And generals did not take prisoners. The carrier landed. The ramp opened. And she walked out. Commander Naira. Skarn's right hand. A tall armored figure with a face marked by war paint and eyes that burned like cold fire. She pointed her blade at Rax. Deliver Echo and I may let some of you live. Rax spat blood and lifted his hammer. Come take him. She smiled. With pleasure. I moved fast through the chaos searching for Echo. He was no longer where I had left him. He was walking straight into the battlefield like he did not understand what death. Storm winds battered the Iron Storm Ridge as our war council gathered under the torn canvas of a makeshift command tent. The fires outside burned low and angry against the dark, their smoke pulled away by a merciless wind. Every one of us looked beaten, bloodied, and exhausted. But defeat had not crushed us. If anything, it sharpened us into something far more dangerous. Echo had been taken by Skarn. Now there was only one objective left. We would tear down Ironstorm Fortress or die trying. Rax slammed a fist down on the map table as warriors gathered around. That carrier is headed for Fortress 1. If Skarn has Echo, he will use him to unlock whatever power he is after. We are running out of time. I studied the crude map we had drawn in the dirt. Ironstorm Fortress sat carved into the obsidian cliffs like a monstrous set of jagged teeth. It was the strongest stronghold on Cardoon, and heavily shielded. No clan had ever breached its defenses. Most who tried did not survive long enough to retreat. Zara stood beside me watching with arms folded. Her face wore the same expression it had since the battle on the flats. Cold, determined, and broken somewhere behind the eyes. Something in her had changed when Echo had been taken. Something burned harder now. Maybe hope. Maybe fury. Tilo pointed frantically at a section of the map. So okay, hear me out. I have a plan. Rax groaned. If it involves flamethrowers or bombs, we say no. Tilo beamed. Then you are going to hate this. Crag leaned over to listen and immediately nodded. I like it. Rax narrowed his eyes. You heard 5 words. I heard bomb plan, said Crag. My favorite kind. Zara turned. Tilo, show us. He pointed to 3 ventilation caverns near the base of the fortress. They feed power lines to the shield generators. We blow those lines and the shields fall. Rax said then they unleash the cannons and vaporize us. Tilo shrugged. Yes. That is the tricky part. We need a distraction big enough to pull their guns away from the caverns. I realized where this was going before he even looked at me. Oh no. Absolutely not. Crag slapped my shoulder so hard my spine cracked. You and I lead frontal assault. We wave our arms. We yell insults. They shoot at us. Boom. Distraction. I glared at him. That is not a plan, Crag. That is a funeral invitation. Crag grinned. For them. But the plan was forming anyway. Rax and his warriors would lead the main assault with Crag at the front. Their job, survive long enough to draw fire. Meanwhile Zara, Tilo, and I would infiltrate through the caverns and sabotage the shield generators. Once the shields fell, the clans would launch everything they had at the fortress. No retreat. No second chances. One final push to stop Skarn from activating whatever Echo was connected to. The clans prepared through the night. Armor was reforged. Rifles reloaded. Engines primed. Warriors sat around silent fires muttering oaths to lost families and fallen friends. They knew what this battle would cost. Maybe everything. But if Skarn unleashed Echo, there would be no future left to fear. I spent part of the night in the canyon alone sharpening my blade. I told myself it was for focus. In truth, I could not bear to sit still. Footsteps approached. Zara sat beside me without asking. For a while we said nothing. Then she spoke. When we break in and reach Echo, what then? I stopped sharpening. What do you mean? She stared at me. You saw what he did in the ruins. He does not understand his own power. If Skarn bends him, if Echo becomes what he fears he already is, how do we stop him? I knew what she was asking. If the choice came, could I kill him? I met her eyes. He is not our enemy. Yet, she said. I shook my head. I am not killing someone who did not ask to be created. Zara did not argue. But she did not nod either. Dawn came like a blade of fire slicing the horizon apart. The war clans stood ready. Rax raised his hammer toward the rising sun. Today we decide our fate, he roared. Not tomorrow. Not next season. Today. We did not come this far to kneel. We came to rise. Across the army, voices lifted in a roar that shook the canyon. We moved. Thunder rolled as the heavy crawlers roared across the dunes. The main assault charged headlong across the open wasteland toward the fortress. Iron Storm rose before us like a black mountain of steel and death. Its defense cannons turned to meet us, massive barrels glowing. That was our cue. Crag sprinted forward, roaring so loud the earth trembled. For glory. For honor. For snacks. He charged alone into cannon fire, and somehow did not die. Rax and his front line followed, smashing into the fortress defenses. Explosions tore through the battlefield as the engines of war clashed with everything Skarn had built. We broke off from the main column and sped toward the southern cliffs on stealth skimmers. No lights. No noise. Just wind and the weight of everything riding on this mission. We reached the caverns unnoticed and slipped inside. The tunnels were narrow and jagged, carved by ancient machinery. Echoes of distant explosions shook dust from the walls. Tilo checked his scanner. The generators are 3 levels up. We go through the maintenance shafts. Zara led us deeper through twisting corridors until we reached a grated shaft that stretched upward into darkness. I climbed first. Zara followed. Tilo struggled. Somewhere halfway up he dropped a bag of charges and let out a quiet scream. Sorry. Slippery hands. Zara glared. Only bring what you can carry. He whispered, I need them all. She whispered back, then carry them better. We reached the generator level and pried open a vent. The room beyond glowed with massive conduits pulsing energy to the fortress shields. 2 guards patrolled lazily, unaware war was erupting just beyond their walls. We took them silently. Crashed power lines rattled the ceiling overhead as cannons thundered outside. Time was running out. Tilo placed charges on the conduits. These go off, the shield dies. But we need full detonation. Meaning someone has to trigger them manually. Zara and I shared a look. She knew what I was going to say before I said it. I will do it. You and Tilo go find Echo. She shook her head. Absolutely not. You are too important to the clans now. Leader dies before battle ends, clans fall apart. I do not care. I am not sending someone to die just to keep a symbol alive. She stepped closer. Rex. As your second, I outrank your stubborn pride. I do this. You save the boy. She pushed a detonator into my hand. Get him back. I froze. Her eyes were steady. Fierce. Beautiful. A storm and a fire. Something in my chest cracked open, but I did not have words for it. I just nodded. She gave me a small smile, genuine and rare. For the first time in years I let myself smile back. Then she turned and climbed a maintenance ladder toward the upper blast window overlooking the battlefield. She was going to ride the explosion to take down as many war machines as she could. I already knew she would not be coming back. Tilo tugged at my sleeve. Rex, we have to go. I forced myself to move. We slipped through the shadows deeper into the fortress. My chest burned like something inside me was being ripped out. I told myself it was just fear. But it was not fear. It was something I did not want. Smoke and fire raged across the battlefield as Ironstorm Fortress burned. The shields were down, thanks to Zara. The war clans surged forward like a tidal wave of vengeance and rage, storming the shattered defenses. But the cost of that victory carved a hollow ache through my chest. Zara was gone. There was no time to grieve. Not yet. Skarn had Echo. If Echo was forced to awaken fully, if Skarn got what he wanted, then everything Zara died for would be meaningless. Inside the fortress, alarms wailed over cracking metal and collapsing towers. Tilo and I raced through the crumbling halls, dodging falling debris and enemy patrols. The fortress interior was a maze of industrial corridors and command decks. Every inch stank of oil, blood, and war. Echo was somewhere inside the core chamber, below the command levels. Skarn would want to keep him close until he unlocked whatever power Echo possessed. I could still feel the faint pulse of energy, a ripple of something unnatural leaking from deep below us like the heartbeat of a buried monster. Tilo checked his wrist tracker. The signal spike is coming from sublevel 7. He glanced at me nervously. That is also where the fusion spine is. I frowned. Translation. It means if something goes wrong down there, this fortress becomes a crater bigger than a city. Perfect, I muttered. Just another day surviving disaster. Crag better still be alive outside. I am going to need him to pull the fortress off me after it explodes. We reached the elevator shaft only to find the lift destroyed. Tilo rigged a descent cable while the fortress continued shaking from the battle above. War screams echoed through the ventilation. The clans were still fighting. Rax was still pushing forward. Every minute we spent down here they were dying to keep this mission alive. I bit down my grief and forced myself to focus. One goal. Get Echo. End this. We rappelled down into the sublevels. The deeper we went, the colder the air became. Energy crackled through the walls. Something down here was awake and feeding. The lower corridors were reinforced with heavy blast doors. We cut through them using Tilo's charges and my blade, forcing our way through inch by inch until finally, we reached a massive steel gate bearing the mark of Skarn's legion. We were not the first ones here. Inside the chamber, soldiers were stationed around a giant containment platform surrounded by pulsating conduits. And in the center was Echo. He was suspended in a rising column of light, eyes closed, body trembling as if energy was being torn from him. Skarn stood nearby, manipulating a set of ancient metallic circuits marked with glowing symbols. He was activating something old. Something buried in Echo's mind. I stepped inside the chamber silently, moving behind cover. I watched Skarn's eyes. There was no rage in them. No hatred. He looked almost reverent. At last, the child of the conduit has awakened, he said, voice cold. The power that shaped this world. The key to erase weakness. With this, the age of chaos ends. The strong will rise. Skarn was not just trying to control Echo. He believed in Echo. Like a fanatic believes in scripture. He raised a clawed hand and energy surged faster through the chamber. Echo screamed, but the sound was like metal shredding. Human, but not human. The circuits on his skin blazed white. He was losing control. We need to cut the power, Tilo whispered. Then he froze. Rex. Look! Behind Echo, I saw them. Vats. Rows of them. Each holding a suspended figure. Human, but empty. Clones. Failed ones? Echo was not alone. He was one of many. The only one who survived. My father's voice echoed in my memory. It is not what you think. It is more dangerous than anyone knows. Echo was not a weapon. He was a failsafe. A last measure built when the ancient wars ravaged Cardoon. A weapon designed to shut everything down. To erase war. To erase life if necessary. Echo was humanity's last mistake. I stepped from cover and aimed my rifle at Skarn. Let him go, I said. Skarn barely glanced at me. You are too late. He will awaken fully in moments. And then I will reshape this world as it should have been. Strong. Unbroken. Even if I must cleanse it in fire. He raised his hand to strike the final activation rune. I fired. He twisted aside with unnatural speed and the shot grazed his armor. Soldiers turned. The room exploded into chaos. I charged forward, ripping through guards. Tilo hacked into the console to shut off power. Sparks flew as he fought the override, fingers moving in a blur. I blasted 2 soldiers trying to flank him, then dove as a cannon blast scorched the wall. Skarn roared and hurled me across the room with a surge of raw force. Pain rippled through me and I hit the ground hard. He strode toward me with slow, terrible steps. You cannot stop what has already begun, Wheeler. You are a remnant of a dying world. I pushed to my feet and spat blood. Maybe. But at least I know what loyalty means. You treat power like a god. Skarn bared his fangs. Power is a god. And it bows to me. He lunged and struck with a gauntlet that cracked ribs. I barely blocked his second blow with my blade. The impact sparked fire. We dueled between fractured pillars as Echo's screams filled the chamber. The energy storm around him reached a crescendo. If he woke like this, he could destroy everything within 100 miles. I fought harder, faster, rage and grief burning in every swing. For my clan. For my people. For Zara. I struck Skarn across the jaw and drove a blade toward his heart. He blocked it and smashed me backward with a brutal headbutt. You think you fight for love, for unity. But your unity is weak. Fragile. One death broke you. He grinned. I smelled your grief the moment I stepped inside this room. You lost her. And now you lose the world. Something broke inside me. I charged him with a roar that cut the air. Our blades locked. We struggled until I twisted and drove my forehead into his skull. He reeled. I tackled him onto the control platform. We rolled. I pinned his arm and drove my knife into his gauntlet, forcing his hand onto the circuit controls. His claws smashed into my ribs. Pain flashed white, but I held him there. His hand triggered the final surge. A wave of light erupted from Echo. Skarn flew backward, slammed into a pillar, and fell. The storm stopped. Silence crushed the room. Echo fell from the suspended light. I caught him before he hit the ground. His body was burning from within. His voice was faint. I see now. What I am. What I was made for. To erase. To reset. I shook my head. You choose who you are. Not them. Not the ones who built you. Not Skarn. Echo looked at me, lost and afraid. If I survive this awakening, I will be death. Tilo limped over. Rex, the fusion core is overloading. This whole place is going to go. We have minutes. I turned to Echo. You do not have to destroy anything. You can choose something different. I grabbed his hand. Choose to save. He closed his eyes. Light surged from him again, but this time it was not violent. It flowed gentle, controlled. He rose slowly. The energy storm reversed itself, pulling loose destruction back together. He stepped into the light and released it over the fortress like a wave. The fires died. The cannons shut down. The battle outside fell silent. In the unnatural calm, Echo